Hey everybody, welcome to Empower Multimedia. This is your host, Carl. On this channel, we talk about how to maximize your time in college, as well as we teach young adults all different aspects of entrepreneurship. On today's episode, we're going to talk about how to build a brand. In marketing, there's an analogy that I like to call the marathon versus the sprint. Typically, in marketing, there are three umbrellas that you can offer to a company or individual personal brand, which is the first, consulting, where you basically advise your client and give them expertise on something. The second umbrella that you can focus on is sales. So in the second umbrella, it basically comes down to you create your own campaign. The goal of the campaign is to achieve financial ROI. These campaigns can run from Facebook ads, Instagram ads, to Google ads, to even email marketing. Anything that has the purpose of eventually creating financial ROI and more of the short-term aspect of things. So sales approach of building a brand is more so of the sprint period of the analogy, right? Because typically in sales campaigns, they average between 3 to 6 months, sometimes even a year to try to see the ROI. And those time frames are crucial because typically in any campaign, you will not get results immediately. It takes time for it to happen. Now, next point, we're going to get to the third portion of the umbrella, and that is branding. So branding is the marathon of this analogy. Typically, a financial ROI campaign takes about 3 to 6 months, maybe even a year to complete. Branding, however, is a long-term and ever-ending approach, right? What this means is if you want to win in marketing, it takes a long-term approach on both sales and branding to make that happen. In terms of building a brand, you need to have a story, right? Like, why are you doing what you're doing? Like, why did you build your business? Like, you need to give people a picture, an image, paint the picture of like what you're doing. Like, for example, when I think of Tom's, the shoe company, their brand is to make, simple, nice shoes to some people, but they also have that approach of buy one and we give one, right? There might be another company that has a different story of why they're doing what they're doing. So building your brand, building your story is the first step. The second step, and it's probably the most important, is outreach. So the more platforms that you are on, the better it is. So that's why you see so many companies not only having a Facebook, an Instagram, a Twitter, a YouTube, they're trying to get on as many platforms as possible. And that is for only one purpose and one purpose only: surface area. The more surface area that you cover, the better it'll be. Because on Pinterest, it might be a different demographic that you're reaching that is different from Twitter. And on Twitter, that might be a different demographic than on LinkedIn. So when you get on as many different platforms as possible, you're able to share your story to different types of audiences. So once you start doing that consistently, eventually, as time goes on, you're going to start to build an identity. And that identity comes from how you've been able to brand yourself, whether you're branding yourself correctly or not, as well as you're going to build an identity from what the product or service that you offer. So that's why it goes twofold. That's why your product or service must be good, because you don't want to be branded as either low tier or middle tier. You want to be seen as the elite and high quality. And then your story also gives a background of about like, hey, when someone mentions the company, it distinguishes you from someone else. Now, when you get to the high echelon or the upper echelon of things, you're going to start being synonymous with products. For example, sometimes when people think of coffee, the first thing that comes up in their mind is Starbucks. Starbucks has been incredible in branding themselves. Some people, when they think about cars, they think of Mercedes. Other people might think of Beamers. Some people might think of Lexus. It really doesn't matter. It's like how that brand perceives themselves and their audience. Now, one big takeaway about building your brand is nowadays it is easier than ever to build a brand, but it's also easier than ever to destroy a brand. Social media is very, very powerful, and you need to watch not only what you say, but what your team members say, because they are a representation of you. That's why employers are so stressed about what people post on their social media. Because let's say, for example, you have so-and-so's company and their employee says something that's frowned upon. It's not just that employee that is being frowned upon. That company is being frowned upon because in some context, some people might think that that company approves of the views of the employee. That's why it's important to make sure that you hire quality people, and you keep your image very pristine and clean. A lot of companies spend a lot of money in clearing up their image. Now, to sum things up, if you want to do branding correctly and you want to build a brand, you need basically an ideal combination of sales, which is short-term ROI, and then branding approach. Once you balance the two out, where you're constantly pushing out campaigns for short-term ROI, as well as you're constantly doing outreach and exposing yourself, not necessarily selling, but just sharing your message to the masses, that's going to help build your brand in the long term. And one key note is, if you want to kind of understand the difference between sales and branding, it's with this one point. Branding is always more powerful in the long term. If you build a great brand, that could get you more sales inherently, more than any campaign that you've ever ran. Some companies that you may know may not even spend any money on marketing sales, and everything is through word of mouth. Basically, kind of like they build a great reputation about what they do, and their brand has been able to consistently help them stay in businesses, open up more locations, and that's the power of branding. So building a brand is very powerful, and if done correctly, it can lead to magnificent results. Thank you everyone for listening to this video once again. My name is Carl, this is Empower Multimedia. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and share if you think this is a great video. Thank you so much, and stay tuned next time.